Welcome to the next episode of the CAPB Podcast. Today, we have got the incredible entrepreneur that is Jacob Lockwood, the founder and CEO of Lockwood Smocks. Welcome, Jacob.
Welcome, Jacob.
Good day, mate. How you doing? You're right,
I'm
Paul?
all good, mate. I'm all good.
We're happy to be happy to have you on, mate. Happy to have you on and hear all about the business.
Yeah, well, thank you. You know, this is the first one of these that I've been doing. It's not something I ever expected to be invited onto. So, yeah, it's just a brilliant opportunity. So, thanks for having me on. Let me tell people about what I'm trying to do, you know.
Mate, it is a pleasure, and we appreciate that. If this is the first one you've been on, it's the first podcast a few of our guests come on. It's always good to set a low bar, and then it's only up from it's only up from here.
Mate, think more highly of yourself. But yeah,
Jacob, you're currently still serving 16 years in the Coldstream Guards.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
I'm
approaching my 16-year point. I did a couple of years for free on the King because I joined before I turned 18 in training. But yeah, so my technical 16-year point is in just short of 2 months away. Yeah.
Mate, and Coldstream Guards?
Yeah, Coldstream Guards, anti-tank platoon. So I actually walked into the recruiting office in Leeds and said, I want to join the infantry. And the recruiter, who was a Coldstream Guard, said, oh, what regiment, son? I said, the infantry regiment. And he must have just been there like, right, brilliant. And he sent me on a look at life course. And he said, we've got a look at life course with the infantry regiment, the Coldstream Guards. We're going to pay for your travel. We're going to pay for your food. We're going to pay for your accommodation. And that was me, hook, line and sinker, and here I am, sort of 16 years later.
Mate, they are. I tell you what, mate, they're geniuses, and I think we've lost the recruiting office now because of all of Capita and doing it all online. I remember when I joined, I wanted to go to university to be a physio. That was the plan, right?
Yeah.
But I ended up going in the careers office, and they were like, "What are you doing now?" And I was like, well, I want to go to college and then university and be a physio. And he said, oh, so you're interested in medical work?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, mate. He pulls out this folder. It's got combat medical technician on it. I was like, they're the three coolest words I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Where do I sign? And there you go, mate. 23 years later, mugged.
Yeah.
I watched a video of guys.
But I mean, it's a pitch in it that they're doing, and a lot of us don't ever look back, do we? So
Never.
I watched a video of a guy jumping out of a plane dressed as Elvis, and I was like, yeah, I could do that. Honestly.
Enter engineers.
There you go. That'll be for you. Yeah, exactly.
Jacob, as a highlight, 16 years is an incredible amount of time. One thing I'm going to pick up on, actually, one thing I'll mention is, I think for people who are listening to the podcast who are not like in the military, the Guards are very much an infantry unit. People see the Guards, famously, they're a huge attraction to the UK because of Troop in the Colour, all of the stuff, all of the royal events. It's incredible. But you are very much a high caliber infantry unit, all of the Guards, and I think that's missed sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we have HDPRCC, so until we get to sort of junior Brecon level, the guys do their promotion courses, pre-snipers, pre-juniors, all that, down at Household Division, Parachute Regiment, centralised courses. And that's kind of the geezers that we sort of train with at the lower levels. But yeah, it's, they sort of say it's the best of both worlds. We have the sort of blue line and then the green line. So we can switch between ceremonial and then you're sort of, going overseas operations, stuff like that, So it's like anything, isn't it? It's everything's got its ups and downs of it. So, yeah. But it's, you often get the geezers, you'll be on ceremonial for 6 months or something, and they're like, mate, I just want to get back on exercise, get back doing green soldiering. And then, 2 days into being in Brecon or Salisbury or wherever, absolutely wet through and cold. And then it's, I just want to get back on ceremonial. But typical squaddies, we can never be happy with what we got, can we?
Mate, I love it. Mate, so give us a highlight reel then. 16 years, an incredible amount of time to have served.
Yeah, so I mean, so my battalion, the first battalion, when I was in training, they were on their last kinetic tour of Afghanistan, and I ended up being one of the first lot of Crow to get to battalion after they'd returned. And you know, the guys back then were doing some pretty serious stuff, weren't they? So you know, over that time, it was an interesting battalion to drop into. But I suppose some of me highlights. I ended up just happened chance to be on HMS Ocean when there was them 3 hurricanes that went through the Caribbean, Jose, Irma and Maria, in quite quick succession. I think it was like 2015, 16 sort of time. And myself and about 6 other Coldstreamers, we ended up on that. So we did sort of 2.5 months in the Caribbean, just nipping from place to place, sorting stuff out, finding out what supplies were needed, helping. Just basically, we just right place, right time when the ship went that way. And I kind of went and spoke to the captain. I says, and so HMS Ocean, it was getting sold to the Brazilians. So it was the last voyage around the Caribbean, around the Mediterranean. And then we got tasked to go there. And I sort of went to the captain and says, if you take us with you, you're obviously all Navy, you've got the RAF on board. If you take us, her final mission will be a tri-service mission. And he was like, at the time, he said, Corporal Lockwood, that's an amazing idea. Let's get it sorted. So yeah, we ended up there. And then we had sort of 4 days in Miami at the end of that, which after 2.5 months of being on ship, spending nothing, I then also got my 8-year money at the time, I think, my 8-year bonus. So I landed in South Beach, Miami with like 13, 14 grand in my bank. Yeah, that was wild. And 1 year at Christmas, it was between me and 6 of the other land sergeants in the tanks who needed to stay behind and do an extra 2 months over Christmas. And with my family, we do opposite years for me brothers of, with one family 1 year. So they were with their partners' families that year. So I was like, you know what, I'll just stay. And I thought, right, how can I keep myself occupied? Put a video up onto my Facebook, sort of saying, look, send some Christmas boxes. We'll get it out of the local orphanages. And I didn't realise how viral that would go. And I ended up with literally an ISO container full of presents, sports kit and all sorts. And on Christmas morning of that year, we delivered, from my video and the couple of the geezers we were with, we delivered an individually, and I got all the individual names of all the orphans at all the different orphanages. We delivered, I think it was 580 individual presents to orphans in Kenya on Christmas Day. And for me, a lot like, my ambitions with the company, that sort of thing I absolutely love. So yeah, and then I suppose, yeah, I mean, they're the ones that really stick out to me. Like I says, I joined at a point after we sort of missed the Connect operations. So, humanitarian and sort of charity work, community engagement have sort of been the highlights. I'm not going to sit here and make out I'm some sort of war dog, because that has not been the case,
You don't need to, because it's the army's about. There's a lot of things that make people in the army and the armed forces, and I think the humanitarian piece, like even on paper, being on HMS Ocean and cruising around in a ship, it wasn't quite like that. There's people at their very worst, and you were there doing like an incredible job. Do you know what I mean? I think one of the most valuable things we did in the military was in the Med Corps, was we do an exercise in Kenya where you do like outreach. You basically turn up at Nanuki, you split into sections, and you deploy for like 3 weeks all over that, like these small little villages and townships, delivering primary healthcare, and that is so rewarding for the troops. Because you're having you're having a tangible impact. Sometimes some of the more kinetic stuff, you can come back from. You can spend 6 months in the hurt locker, come back and be like, "Fucking hell!" Do you know what I mean? It was hard, but and I think that's something.
That is, and I picked that out because I think, people think, oh, army, it's, going out Call of Duty, when in actual fact, the first time you go to them sort of places and really get to see abject poverty, it's quite eye-opening. And like you said, that rewarding piece of going out delivering primary healthcare, you know, yeah, it just makes you realise how bloody lucky we are to live in the UK.
100%, mate. And as I say, being in the armed forces, having a tangible impact on helping people at their worst. That's like, I know, Paul, you did the thing with the fire strikes, didn't you, on the Green Goddesses? And it's like, joking aside.
Did you really? You were in back then?
Paul, yeah, we're back in the day.
I joined in 2001, and yeah, I think I was 8, just turned 18. I was sent up to just outside Scunthorpe in the Green Goddesses that went about 18
I remember that on the news at the time.
And so I was there for. I think that was the first fire strike, and then the second fire strike got called off, but we went more training and things like that. But yeah, back in those.
Yeah. I was an actual child when that was happening.
Amazing, Jacob. Thanks, mate. Moving swiftly on.
Moving swiftly on.
Yeah.
What is Lockwood Smocks?
Yeah, so Lockwood Smocks is a fully British-made military, country and equestrian clothing brand that's ethos is sticking to British manufacturing, doing my small piece for our economy whilst giving back to what I deem to be worthy charities at the sort of grassroots equestrian level. And then, I'm working towards some other things. That was basically born out of, like a lot of these things are, seeing a gap. And my gap was, anti-tank platoon. Anyone that knows, we spend a lot of time in OPs, so little holes that we dig in the ground where we sit, watch, observe and report. Typically quite cold, oftentimes very wet. And I don't know if I can mention the name of the company, but there's a company that provide or sell waterproof kit. It sounds rhymes a bit like Beeler, but anyway, and then I had something else, and just basically I just got sick of wet kit that doesn't keep you dry, doesn't last very long, and we're paying a lot of money for something made thousands of miles away by, let's be honest, people that are most likely being exploited through their wages. So I set off on the journey of, right, you know what, I could probably just make something better myself. Got going, had a design done, started trying to find production places and realised just how difficult British manufacturing, to just have stuff manufactured in this country, it's difficult to find people willing to work with you at such small numbers. And B, just the struggles they get by being undercut. And kind of me being me a little bit, I was kind of like, the amount of people that were like, we can get it done cheaper in Turkey, we can get it done cheaper in China. And I was like, well, no, if I can do just my small piece where genuinely everything is made in this country, every pound that people are spending is kept in this in this country, then I will. Do you know what I mean? And yes, my margins aren't amazing, and it has been a difficult struggle, but I just think it's worthwhile.
Mate, I think what you're doing is brilliant, and I think one of the things I'll touch on is your social media. But I think what you're doing, keeping something British and keeping it British made, it's a really interesting thing because you're not prioritising your profit in any way whatsoever. Because, like you said, you could get something very similar made overseas and a lot cheaper, but it's not about that. And I think that kind of messaging is brilliant, mate. And I've seen like your social media where you're going to factories and you're physically holding the material and you're speaking to the people, and I think that's huge, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, sorry, but
Go
yeah,
on.
it is huge, and it's it's bloody difficult. For my small range, I deal with 9 different factories, and I make a point of I believe the power of picking up the phone and then going and seeing someone. It really buys them into the brand. So I don't really have any spare time anymore, but it's worth it. And being able to tell people the story and tell them hand on heart, oh yeah, these are made in so and so, and they're designed by whoever, and this person makes them. Me Ranger Gilets, I've in the tag. So Pav, when I go there, his mum, when I first met him, she works in the factory as well, and she sort of does all the computer stuff. And the first day I met her, I just walked up to her. He said, "Oh, this is my mum." I give her a massive hug, and every time I've been there since, she's, "Ah, Jacob, do you want a cup of tea?" And it's like them small connections. Not only is it like I just like talking to people, but it's like it just you know the backing behind the brand, not just from the social media, but the people in the factories. They just enjoy working with me because I'm just so passionate about it.
Where did,
Um,
Jake, where did the
Go on, sorry.
equestrian angle to the brand?
Yeah. Oh God. So basically, in 2014, I narrowly avoided being kicked out of the army and um, being taken into the care of another branch of His Majesty's service, and during that time, while it was all going on, clearly I was pretty depressed at the prospect of what life had in store for me. And so my mum took me out to a local trail hunt and sort of got me out with some of the followers on a quad bike. And then I had an absolutely amazing time, 20-something-year-old Jacob, loads of young ladies in the countryside, riding horses, nice food, nice company, good bit of tipple. And I said, "Oh, can I come out again?" And Mum was like, "Oh, well, no, if you want to come out again, you've got to learn to ride because you can only do that once." Absolute lie. But I was then hooked. So 6 months later, I was out on the first trail hunt of the following season. So yeah, it's just that then passion for horses of, again, a little bit like this brand. The more difficult it is, the more I want to do it. And with horses, they're a motorbike, a 500 kilo motorbike that's got its own brain, and it doesn't talk our language, and we have to learn the horse's language. And it just, there's more down days than up days with horses, I think. But the up days make it worth it. So that's where that sort of piece come from. And like the type of clothing that you sort of want when you're working with horses, quite a lot of crossover with military kit. For the most part, we're out in bad weather for extended periods of time, and we want to be dry and comfortable as best as we can. So when I got the Brecon smocks and then people saw them, people were like, "Oh, can you do them in an olive green? Could you do them in another colour?" And that's how it just sort of evolved. And then I started looking at other brands within the equestrian space with British heritage and British inspired, and then you look inside and it says made in China, made in Turkey, and I thought, you know what, there's no one out there doing genuine, there's few companies out there doing genuine British made country kit, and I am yet to find an equestrian brand doing British made equestrian clothing. So it's, there's a gap there that people, the big brands they'll establish themselves, and then it's right, ship it all off to China, pay a fraction of the price to have the stuff made, and put massive margins on and make loads of money. But for me, I just need to make sure I'm okay, make sure I can put a roof over the head of my fiance and feed us both, and hopefully raise thousands for well-needing charities along the way. Why not?
Mate, I think the level of passion and your values that you put into a business are important. And we've had a few on the podcast who are driven by values, and that's something we take from the military. Yeah. Definitely, whether your values are the same or whether they're slightly different, you have a set of values. What I love about your range, I'll tell you this, is like the smocks. So obviously we've all bought smocks, we've all had the smocks issued, we've all paid a lot of money for all various different smocks and different parts of the service, but I love that you've got like the same cut of the smock in Civi, and they look like a real high quality fashion item, mate.
Yeah,
the burgundy one I really like. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah, it's smart, isn't it?
You wouldn't think when you were issued a smock or you're wearing a smock, you'd think, "Oh, I could just do with this in a nice blue. That'd be nice." You don't think?
Oh,
you've made like, and it's almost like I can see it. Because I know you do the flat caps as well. Like it's almost a bit of an iconic look, isn't it? It's like a British. It's like you're bringing back a bit of a Peaky Blinder iconic British look, and I think that's quality, mate. I'm brave.
And throughout this, when I was getting started, putting sort of tens of thousands of pounds into this, I've had a lot of sleepless nights. But then as it's been going, the sleepless nights have been less as I'm getting more feedback from people, because exactly like you're saying, they are such a solid product, and it's why has no one done this already? Because smock is a rugged, versatile piece of kit that we have, and they last. And these ones are just, like I said, the reviews that I get from people really blow me away. That I'm like, you know what, Jacob, you've flipping nailed this one. Because I've had a couple of business. Well, I had a business in the past, and then I've always been ducking and diving, trying to find ways to make extra coin. But yeah, this one really worked out. But so I did have a company called Lock Harness Limited, which was a single person Kazivac stretcher, which I thought up when one of the lads blew his knee up on Onion Range in the Falklands. And what I learnt from that, having got some patents, or 3 UK patents, international patent pending, etc., was, that was a world of business to business, military contracts, and sergeant flipping toenail here trying to secure government contracts. How naive I was. But, that 30 odd grand I put into that was, I sometimes say that was my university degree in business. Learnt a lot from that. That's certainly that I've taken over into this business of just caution, move with caution.
Mate, I love it. I love it. And it's like, as I say, you're not the first person to invest a lot of their own money, and there is a lot of an element of risk. But with that, mate, I would say, what's like, because you've had a business before, and you've got a growing business in Lockwood Smocks. What's like some of the biggest lessons that you've learned in business?
Whoa, flipping heck! That saying of "it's not what you know, but who you know" could not be more relevant. There's a BBC reporter for the Formula One, who's married to a rugby player that my brother knows because he's an ex-professional. He played for Newcastle Falcons. He's linked me up with her, and let's pray for rain at Monaco this weekend, because then one of my smocks is going to be on the grid there, and then other lessons. I suppose it's the power of a phone call. Emails are good for continuous conversation, but I would just say, for me, what I've learned is picking up the phone to people and having a real conversation in this world of social media, where we're sort of meant to be more connected but less connected than ever before. Having a phone call with someone, going and meeting people, that is how you get the best results out of people. And, you know, yeah, for me, that is probably one of the best things. Yeah.
It shows, I think, having a phone call with people, it shows that you're invested.
Yeah,
I mean,
big
it shows
stuff.
that you're invested. It shows that you're willing to give your time up. And I'm not saying like, you know, phoning someone because you're in a car and it's convenient for you. I'm talking about, you know, making a planned phone call and having a conversation with someone. Man, I think that's real good advice, because a lot of us do, you know, send a message or send an email or go on a contact page and just copy and paste and wonder why no one gets back to you.
Yeah, because, you know, it's that as well, isn't it? I think, you know, some people are maybe afraid of rejection, so they think, well, maybe just an email to set things up might work. And I quickly realised, pick up the phone, get in the car, get to the factory, go see them. You know, I had a couple of phone calls where I'm like, they didn't seem too keen, so I rang them back and I'm like, when can I come down? And they're like, you want to come down? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, where are you? I mean, the people that made the smocks, for instance, you know, they're down in Barnstable, like 3.5 hours away. And I had the first initial phone call with them. I was like, when can I come down? They're like, well, where are you? I was like, Windsor. They were like, that's nearly 4 hours away. I was like, yeah. They're like, well, when do you want to come down? I was like, well, I'm free tomorrow. And I literally got in the van, woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I was there for when they opened at 6. And the power of that, they were so bought in, and they could not do more to help me if they flipping tried. And it's just that personal connections are everything.
And like you said, it's that get over yourself for fear of rejection, isn't it? Because you could have gone down there and they've gone, thanks but no thanks, mate. Not really interested.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people as well don't like letting the guard down. For me, I do not care. I will ring someone up and say, look, and you know, I say this quite a lot to people. I'll say, look, I'm a soldier, I'm not a businessman. I need your help. Because there'll be, you know, a couple of companies that'll be like, oh, how do you want this? I'm like, look, I'll give them that line and I'll say, you're the professionals in this industry, not me. I need you to help me because I need help. And that instantly, it puts people's guards down, you know, by just basically just opening myself up like that. It gets people on side. And equally, you know, if you're just honest with people like that, they're so much more open to helping you. And then, you know, I think a lot in business, it's just straight talking, people maybe posturing a little bit to each other. So then when I come along and I'm just quite open and honest, it's probably quite refreshing for a lot of these people.
Humility goes a long way, doesn't it? Humility.
Yeah. I'm not the typical businessman, you know.
Talking about that, mate, right? Because as you said from your history, you haven't got a degree in fashion design either. So when was the point when you like? I can imagine it. I can see it in my eyes, like that time when you got your hands on the first garment that you'd chose, that you'd picked, you'd had made, and you physically had your hands on it. What was that like, mate?
Well, see, I know you say I'm not a fashion designer, which I'm not, but I had a lad, Andy, he was called. I won't say his last name on here, but when I first got to battalion, it was wild, like I said, and this guy took me under his wing a little bit, senior guardsman. We were quite good pals, and we went into the cookhouse one day, and there was one of the suit people that come in, and we just for a laugh were like, should we just go and have some suits made? And then, you know, we'd go out into town and we had our little fake personas and we'd pretend to be businessmen. But that evolved into, I've now got sort of 8 suits upstairs, all made by the same people that I've designed every one. So when I went to the first design meeting in North London to have these smocks designed, I took 5 different jackets, and I said to them, I was like, I like this bit, I like that, I want this cut like that, this is how I'd like that, and they pretty much nailed it on the first toil. So when you go to these design meetings, you have your initial meeting, you then go for the first toil, as it's called, and they have basically a rough version of the garment made up with maybe the arms detached, or they'll have some examples of pockets and stuff. and they pretty much nailed it on the first hit. But yeah, it's because some little bits like how the SAS windproof smocks have got that sort of open neck bit. That's something that I really like on my jacket because I've got that, but it's like bigger, so it's really roomy. The hood is massive because everybody knows when the crow beast comes a knocking at daft o'clock in the morning and you're on stag and the wind's going down the back of your neck. I've designed the hood big enough that you can flip and get it over your helmet, and then when you hear someone coming, you just quickly flick it down. But it's like all them little pieces I've really thought of, But yeah, no, I'm not a clothing designer, but I've designed all my own suits. And like I said, the feedback I get from these smocks, I bloody nailed it. Apart from the TRF patch sizes, which have now been updated, and buttons, which have now been changed to poppers. Because I've and I knew this from when I worked with Wimix, cam nets catch on bloody everything. And some of the armoured lads that have bought them are like, oh yeah, it catches on the buttons, but yeah, by the by, design tweak. But to go from the first lot out to only 2 changes needing to be made, I'm pretty happy with,
Mate, I think you should be. I think it's mega. And I'll tell you something else that's mega, and is social media. Now, social media, right? And we spoke about this many times. If you don't embrace social media and you're going into business, you're going to fall foul, I think.
Yeah, big stuff.
One of your videos, mate, talk about testing your equipment. There is a video of someone pressure washing you in the smock. This isn't like look, like the little demo where they pour a little bit of water on it.
Yeah.
It doesn't rain like that, mate. And there's one and you're stood there getting pressure wash and just like
boom
and bone dry. Talk about
a
proof of concept and showing how good your product is, mate. That was genius bit of marketing.
Yeah, and it was literally someone said to me, "How waterproof is it?" I was like, "Mate, you could go in a jet washer," and they were like, "Well, go then." I was like, "All right then." And I remember with my last business, the lock harness, my best pal Magic, we're talking about it, and I'm sure it was him. And he says, "Oh yeah, it's all right, but you won't be able to take anyone very far on it." I was like, "Mate, I bet you a pint I could take my lass up the fan on this, up the penny fan." So on my 30th birthday, I strapped me lass to me back and did the fan dance. But it's like if you say something, prove it,
Yeah.
So I did.
I love it, mate. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and if you're going to say something waterproof, I don't see any of the other companies jumping out of their flipping seats to go and do that. So, when I put that video out, the first order of 50, and when I put the deposit down for that, talking about the sleepless nights, that was back when I had a lot of them. Yeah. And then I put that video out, I think 80% of them sold on pre-order in the first few weeks. So that's when I was like, oh my God, yeah, good. And then they went out, and then I started getting the feedback, and it's like, yeah, I've bloody done this.
It was 2 things, mate, because it's like, it isn't just waterproof, but a pressure washer, mate, do you know what I mean? Takes the top off stones, and the fact that it wasn't just disintegrating at the seams, it wasn't just like, do you know what I mean? It showed
Oh
the
God,
of
yeah.
It was very, very good, mate.
I really want. I don't know if I said to you the tank washdown points at Larkhill and Tidworth. Do you know what I'm on about? They're massive heights. I really want to try and get down there, but trying to line that up because you've got to book them, and the strange wardens. You try to say, "Oh yeah, I want to book in." They're like, "What you do?" I'm like videoing, psyching myself, but it's something I need to get done at some point because there's some trousers going to be coming out. So the idea would be when I've got the full suit, I'll go down there, do like a video just getting absolutely mullered up and down with them tank hoses, and then taking it all off and being bone dry.
And have a beautiful suit on underneath like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But no, yeah.
Mate, so what's the we usually ask what's one bit of advice you would give to someone going into business. I mean, Other
Yeah.
than picking up the phone, what is the one bit of advice you'd give to someone who was contemplating starting a business? Because you've had a couple.
Yeah. So I don't know, and you've been on promotion courses, and there's that first little block when I sort of phrase it the shock of capture. You don't really know what's happening. You're in a strange environment, and and then you get into it, and then you're on the course. You got your buddies, but that shock of capture period, I'd just say be prepared for almost every day of your life to feel like that, and just be prepared to be comfortable at being uncomfortable almost every day. Because as soon as you can be calm in that chaos, the sooner you'll start sleeping better, basically. I think it's like Elon Musk said, business is like staring into the abyss and chewing glass. And for me, it's my sort of phrase of that is be prepared for the shock of capture every day.
Mate,
Solid
it's
advice.
good. It's honest.
Solid advice.
It's honest advice, mate. It's because it isn't all tea and medals, mate. It isn't all tea and profit, and you know what I mean. And as I say, the fact that the sleepless nights and stuff, it's really refreshing to have for people to be honest and say it is. It's horrible. It's horrible until it's not, and sometimes I guess it's never not.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that, what people say about champions. People only see the gold medal days. They don't see the thousands of hours on the track. And it's just bloody tough, but so rewarding. And I think I saw something as well. It's like a customer will become a friend quicker than a friend will become a customer. And I kind of thought, nah, people back me, like people, and you know what? Absolutely true. I've got probably maybe 50 or 60 people that I regularly talk to, and then probably a group of like really stone hard, probably 20 or so people I've never met before. And I talk to them all the time, literally, how we are now, like friends. And I think that was something I just really didn't expect. In the early days when my social media was just nothing, and I was, before, well, even after that video with the jet wash, but, kind of thinking like, why aren't the geezers backing me? Like, why aren't people helping me? And then slowly over time, customers have become friends, and I've got like such a support network now. I mean, I was just talking to someone yesterday, saying about the other week when I was particularly sort of before I decided that I'm going to leave the military and pursue this full time. I was on a run of about sort of 15 days of 4 o'clock waking up, not getting back till like 8, 9 o'clock at night to the house. And I was pretty done in. And, I sort of had a little bit of a natter with this guy. Again, never met him before. And it was just in that period, a couple of weeks back, I flipping really needed people like that. Because it's them lows are bloody low. But then again, the pickups of the community that I seem to be building is, I think I probably would have lost my flipping mind by now if it weren't for the community that I have with the social media.
Mate, we can relate to it bad on the podcast because like we've released 30 episodes. We've got 2 or 3 left to edit and release, and it's like of those. The first 5 or 6 episodes, I knew them. Paul knew them. We knew them. We'd served with them. We'd deployed with them, and it was like an easy win. Conversation was easy. We've been for pints.
Yeah.
We deployed with them, so it was like this is going to be easy. But then we started recording episodes with people we'd never met, mate. And I think the first one we did, the person we never met was Jack Wiles from Rugby Buckets. Never spoke to him before.
Yeah.
But mate, honestly, Jack's another one. I'll message Jack every other day, mate. He'll message me. It's the same as Teague and Combat Clipper Company and some of the others who we've never met. Although I did meet Teague the other day because he just popped in on the way back past. Never met him before.
Yeah.
And it's like we are making a community of people who are just willing to lean in. Because you're right.
Yeah.
You think all my friends and family will back me all of the time. And they will, but they can't continue. You can't build a business on friends and family.
No. And in essence, your guests are your customers almost.
Yeah.
And like you said, your customers have become friends. And it's, that it is Jack, isn't it, from Rugby Buckets?
Yes.
Jack Wiles, yeah.
Jack Wild, what a legend of a guy. I sort of, I bought some of his bucket hats. And since I started this, he's been sort of a kind of an unofficial sort of mentor-ish, I suppose. He gives me advice, he sends me voice notes, and he's like, yeah, this is really good. I just think about tweaking that, mate, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, what has he got to gain from that? Nothing. He is busy as hell, yet he takes the time out of his day to, help me. And then he'll I'll put videos up and he's like, mate, that is really good. Like, you've really nailed the da 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 da. And it's flipping, it's decent. That forces brands community of, just other geezers speak, because he is about a year ahead of me on the same path that I am walking. And there's another guy, the Black Ops Rum dude. Have you met him before or spoke to him? Have you had him on the pod?
Not yet.
You should, man, because he as well. He sort of early this year, January, February, March time. I was speaking to him quite a lot, and he was kind of a bit of a business mentor sort of to me, because he's trod the path that I've walked many years ago, and he's been brilliant. Yeah, it's just. But yeah, definitely you need to speak. And his stuff is real good. But I was struggling with a bit of engagement. He's like, mate, he picked up the phone. He's like, I can send you a couple of bottles of rum if you want. You can give them away as a competition for your followers. I was like, cute. And it's that stuff is expensive and it's bloody nice.
Paul talked about it on the podcast, on one of the really early podcasts, and he mentioned it, and I'll never forget what Paul said. And he was like, the veteran community, you can just relate to it. And Paul refers to like drinking that warm bottle, that bottled water that's warm and dusty and horrible, mate. But everyone knows, like drinking out of a jerry can, mate. Everyone kind of knows the taste of that water.
Yeah.
And I love it, mate. I think it's a mega thing.
So Jacob, your business is going from strength to strength, right? What's next? What's next for Lockwood Smocks?
That is such a massive question, and to condense it as best I can. So right now I'm forming a small team of grassroots riders. So at the lowest end of the sport in eventing, an amateur jockey as well. So basically double down on that next year and hopefully to be able to provide a bit of a better offering. Looking at other charities to support and start backing. And, in sort of something that I've uncovered since I've been going into my other products is wool and the struggles that British farmers have. So we know about fair trade chocolate, but for our farmers, as we know, get hammered. And we're not going to talk politics, but the price of a kilo of their wool, when it leaves them, to the price I pay for a metre, and I use for my Zilos coming out, it's 380 odd grams per square metre or whatever. So the value of that 1 kilo when it leaves a farmer is less than £1. And by the time it gets to me, almost 50 or 60 quid, if not more. So I would like, in sort of 5 years' time, I want to really be trying to work out a way that I can develop some sort of fair trade in wool initiative by basically cutting out the middlemen, because there's a lot of middlemen in that chain, all adding on their little piece and their little markups. And I just think, mate, be more imaginative. You're literally skimming people and you're not doing the hard work for it. So the sort of 5 to 6 year plan is work out a way of doing fair trade wool for farmers. I want to establish a training centre, all funded by the company. Again, the sort of 5 to 6 year plan where people that they just don't have the family support or the financial support to be able to get into the sport. So I'd like to establish a centre where people can come and base themselves without having that pressure and have a support network around them. And then branching out to different charities. So sort of back end of this year, I'm going to be my Metropolitan Smock, which is a black one, which I didn't really expect to ever be making, but I'm going to be supporting the My Name's Doddy Foundation through that, and I've got hopefully pretty famous rugby player who's going to be helping me with that. So yeah, it's just double down on what I'm doing, but more, and eventually, you know, some of these big brands that have their British heritage, you know, they have Union Jacks all over everything, but it's all made overseas. Eventually, you know, hopefully sooner than later, they're going to realise we need to really think about what we're doing. And then all of a sudden, you know, maybe 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, all these factories up and down the country are firing on all cylinders doing stuff. I've been very aware of sort of in Wales in particular, there's a lot of factories. Manufacturing has been gutted in Wales. And their government have got a lot of initiatives to try and bring manufacturing back. So it's, you know, I'd like to almost have a centralised location of manufacturing for the company, where we can provide like really worthwhile employment over in Wales. Not only because it's bloody lovely country over there, but I just think, you know, Wales has particularly been hammered by the loss of manufacturing. So yeah, I suppose that really.
I think
It's pretty.
There's a lot of wool there as well, mate. Well, there's a lot of wool here. Sorry, I live in Wales, so there's a lot of wool here. So yeah.
Jacob,
Exactly, and thinking about carbon footprint, you know,
exactly,
how far does that wool need to travel?
Mate, it's incredible. It really is listening to you, because your business at the moment, you know, is growing all the time. But who knows if there's not going to be a, you know, Lockwood Smocks factory in Wales churning out enough, exporting it to, you know, equestrian is not a sport just set in UK. It's massive globally. So I think it's, mate, honestly, and the fact that it's not like when I say, or when Paul says, "What's next?" and you're not saying, open a little shop or do this. It's like you're like, no. I want to get back to the grassroots and improve, you know, what the farmers are getting for producing wool. And I think that, mate, is such a brilliant way of
a testament to you as a business person and how you want to drive it and how you see the world going. I think it's really great.
And that's
I mean, you think I'm just one person, but you imagine if there was 1,000 other people in different sectors all trying to commit to Britain, and then almost every person just tried to make a 10 or 20% change in their spending habits, buying from local butchers, buying British-made clothing, you know, trying to buy British-made cars if possible. You know, if we all just, I don't know, that's not a 10% change, but if we all just tried to make a small change, you know, again, not going into politics, but like, our country isn't doing amazingly at the minute. I tell you what, it's probably the best country in the world to live in, but we could be doing better. So if we could be doing better, we're as good as broken. So, you know, I think by just doing my small piece, I hope to start making such noise in the military, country and equestrian fashion industries that other companies are going to have to start getting in line or they're going to lose money.
Mate, I love it.
And that could only that's only good for Britain. You know, it's only good for Pav at his factory up in Birmingham. It's only good for flipping Mark over in Royal Wotton Bassett. It's only good for Katie down in Barnstable. It's only good for flipping it Mark Johnson in bloody Amesbury making me boxers. It's only good for the people up at Contact Carrington in Lancashire. You know, it's only good for the Cotswold Button Company over in the Cotswold because they're going to be getting more and more and more custom, mate, and less is going to be overseas.
I think it's brilliant, mate. I think it's brilliant that you know the names of all the people you work with. Again, it's a testament to you. Listen, Jacob, mate, it has been an absolute honour and a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, thank you.
And one of the things we're really proud about the podcast, and to be a small part, the smallest part, and just to touch, you know what I mean, even just to make contact and listen to the stories of veterans like yourself who are making a dent in their industries and driving their businesses forward is you know, it's really humbling for us. And so thank you for giving us the time up, because when you're massive, rich and famous, mate, and you know what I mean, and like everyone's wearing a Lockwood smock, just remember, mate, remember the podcast, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, mate. Nah, absolutely. It's that in it. The 1%. If we can just improve 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%. You know, and with podcasts, a lot of them they take flipping 5 years of hard graft before they get anywhere. But it's just, you know, giving us this platform is it is invaluable. So thank the both of you, like, you know, for having me on and being able to get me message out there. I genuinely just, if you're here, I'd probably give you a massive bloody kiss right now. So just thank you.
And if you were here, I'd take it. Yeah. I would. Listen, mate, all the best. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, brilliant. God bless. And I'll be moving on to the next. Thank you. God save the king.